What's up, everybody? My name's Matt. Welcome back to the channel. And today I wanted to talk about a couple of books that I've read recently and give kind of like a two-in-one review comparison type video. So this month I've read both The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix and Final Girls by Riley Sager. I saw this one first, had my eye on it, and was planning on reading it. And then when I was like looking for spooky season books, Riley Sager's name started to pop out there, and I wanted to check him out, and I found this book. And I found it interesting that these books seemed so similar, and I wanted to see exactly how they compared and how similar two seemingly similar stories could be, and if reading them would yield a similar experience. So here's what I found. So both of these books follow a group of girls who have flocked together, united in their shared experiences with like separate mass murders. Each of the girls is a survivor of some type of mass murder incident, and they just ended up meeting together, knowing each other, and supporting each other. Both of the books contain multiple plot twists throughout the book, and which was kind of crazy for me because, especially reading a mystery or a thriller, I'm the type of reader to try to guess the ending or the next twist or who did it. I try to guess, and they just kept me on my toes every time with every twist. Both of them did. Both of the books end in thematically similar ways. I don't want to say too much so right now I'm not trying to be too spoilery. I'll get spoilery at the end of the video, and you'll have fair warning for that. So to put it as least spoilery as possible, the endings are similar, and I think I might just have to leave it at that. I don't know how much more I could say considering the ending. And the last similarity that I found, at least with the editions that I read, they're both the exact same page count. They're both 339 pages long, and that might have been the most interesting similarity that I've found. And honestly surprising, what are the odds of that, right? Anyways, those are some of the big similarities. There might be more that are kind of like minor, but those are the similarities that stuck out to me. So now I want to talk about my thoughts about each book separately and kind of give each of them their due review. So first I want to talk about the Final Girl Support Group. This is the first of the two that I read. This book is it's like that slasher movie where there's a bunch of cast members that you've never seen before, except the main character, like you've seen in one thing before, and like you can't really place it. So you have to while the movie's playing, you pull out your phone and you look on IMDb, and then you look over to your wife and you say, oh, there it is. That's where I know her from. Unless you're not like me and you don't do that. But that's the type of vibe that I got from this movie. It's like a camp slasher horror. I picture Friday the 13th. Some of the things I liked about this book. A huge flavor detail for me that's not necessary at all, but just added a little spice to it that I really liked, was that each chapter is named it's named as if it's a continuation of a horror movie series. So the first three chapters are called the Final Girl Support Group 1, 2, and 3. The fourth one is called Final Girl Support Group 4, Return of the Final Girls. And then chapter 6 is Final Girl Support Group 6, The Next Generation. And they keep going like that. And I love that detail. Like, totally not necessary at all. Just name it chapter 1, 2, and so on and so forth. But for his writing and his details within his writing that are not necessary but add a ton, was perfect. Much like in Horror Store, which I read earlier this year by Grady Hendrix, there's a lot of details throughout that book that are similar in that they're not necessary, but they add a lot, and they're very well done thematically, and they tie in with the story in their own unique, awesome, amazing ways. And I don't, articulating that is kind of difficult. Like, first and foremost, you should just read the book and find out, because I liked it. It was a good book. You should read it. So anyways, the next thing I liked about this book is at the beginning of each chapter, there is a document of some sort, be it an email, an interview record, like a police investigation, stuff like that. And some of them, most of them, if not all of them, I didn't read all of them, but I wish I did, because towards the end I started to read them and they started to reveal pretty important story elements. So if you're like me, I'm going to tell you, do not skip the chapter headers at the beginning of the chapter. They look like this. So here's just one example of what it would look like. And so this is like an excerpt from a book that's written in this world's universe that has to do with like killers or the psychology. So this says slasher movies in the age of mass shootings by David Thomas, which in the world of the book would be like a it's from a manifesto. Anyways, there's stuff like that and like just another flavor detail that really adds to the book, and I think they're important, especially towards the end of the book. You're gonna want to read those. I loved not being able to guess the ending because that's part of the reason I don't read more thriller books, is because a few years ago I did read one and I guessed the ending pretty early on, and I didn't like that I could guess it. It just felt too easy. I kind of wrote off mysteries for a while. So I'm glad that I couldn't guess the ending. And additionally, his writing, his writing style is just so easy. It feels normal. Which like it's simple. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just so easily consumable and like conversational. It doesn't feel lofty or superfluous in any way. It just feels like he's a normal dude in the best way. Like I don't mean any of this as an insult. These are things I liked about the book. I love Grady Hendrix's writing style. I'm definitely going to read more of his work. And then now things I didn't like about the book so much. So this isn't Grady Hendrix's fault, I don't think. But I thought this was going to be a like horror. I know that thriller, like slasher thriller, is a genre of horror. But when I think of horror, I think of more than just like a slasher or like a dude in a mask type story. I think of, something more going on. And I'm trying to be careful of my words right now because spoilers, but to no fault of his own, this was in my area and in my findings marketed as a horror book, and it's a thriller. It's a slasher thriller book. Like this was on a table next to like All the Good Indians, and there's another one. There's another book that I'm trying to think of the name. I can't find it. I'll find it while I'm editing and put it up on the screen. There's like a white horse on the cover. It's all black, and like all the books on the table were horror books. And Grady Hendrix, all of his other books are horror books. Like maybe I just had a misconception on what to expect, and because of that, I didn't really like that part of it. I didn't like that it wasn't what I expected, but that's partly on me. I will say that is kind of my fault. And then finally, one thing I didn't like is towards the end of the book, it's the big climactic final action sequence, and in the middle of it, there's just kind of like some imagery exposition that I didn't find necessary, and it would be more of an issue if it was like that throughout the entire book. I didn't catch it throughout the entire book, and so then that would be a critique on his writing style overall. It's not that exactly. It's just in one moment where a character is like, it's just a very tense scene. It's a very tense moment, and there's like a paragraph of imagery that feels out of place, and it yanked me out of the scene, and it was hard to get back in the next paragraph. I wasn't a fan of that, and I might be tripping. Sometimes I struggle with comprehension, like my brain is elsewhere while I'm reading. I'm sure that happens to you. So I could be wrong. That could be not at all what I read or what was written, but it still, all the same, that was my experience. I was yanked out of the scene for whatever reason, and it was difficult. It was hard. So Final Girl Support Group, my rating is, I think I originally gave it 2.5, but I ended up bringing it up to 3 because I did like the book. It's a good book. You should read it. Yes, read it. It just didn't blow my socks off, and I probably won't be rereading it. I would be okay to see it adapted to the screen somehow. That would be cool. I would watch that and enjoy it. But yeah, 3 stars for the Final Girl Support Group. Read it. Check out Grady Hendrix. He's an awesome author. And then now on to Final Girls by Riley Sager. So Riley Sager is a name that I had been hearing recently from other people on BookTube, people that typically read mystery thriller type books, and that's like their go-to. That's a little out of my comfort zone. That's not typically where I hang out, but I had heard his name and a lot of good things about him, so I wanted to check it out, and this was a great opportunity for me to do so. So I mentioned earlier that I try to make guesses as to who the main guy is, the main bad guy, and how the story's going to end. And time again throughout this book, I got it wrong. Like there's like multiple twists. Maybe on more than one hand I could count the amount of twists in this book, and all of them I was incorrect. And I honestly love that because it kept me guessing and it kept me wanting to find out, okay, what's next, what happened, who's the actual bad guy, what's going to happen, how does this end. And it was amazing. This book was incredible. And the final ending, I never would have guessed in a million years. You could have told me to read halfway through the book or even 3/4 of the book, and I still would not have got it. It just, honestly, it almost doesn't make sense. Like, it's not believable. Even though I finished the book, I still don't believe it. But I'll let you read and find out. So the first thing I liked about this book is, similar to Hendrix, Sager's writing style is very simple. It's very relatable and easily digestible. And honestly, I wrote down easily bingeable. I just couldn't get enough of it. I kept wanting to read, and all I could think about was finishing the book and just reading his writing. He's just great. I loved it. This book is great. This is my first and only Sager so far. I've heard some people that aren't really fans of his writing style and stories. I don't know. For my first one, I think it was good. I might check out more, but his like syntax and word choice were just, they were easy. I didn't have to try hard, while I was reading. That's a huge plus for me. And again, I loved the like plot twist after plot twist after plot twist after like little seeds of suspicion that he wrote, and like, oh, maybe it's and then a twist, and then like, just, you cannot sit still. He will keep you guessing and moving, and good luck guessing the ending. And it kept me wanting to come back. I didn't have to force myself to read this book. There was no grind to it. There was no like trying. It just came naturally, and that's all I wanted to do, which I talked about that a second ago. So yeah, those were the things I did like about it. The things that I did not like about it, through the protagonist's suspicions, she's the main character is really suspicious on this one character. So much so that like she keeps pointing her suspicion and like almost trying to make that character fit the mold. And like, honestly, it's feasible that character would fit the mold, but they were pushing so hard that it was kind of obvious to me that this person's not going to be the main bad guy. I didn't like being able to point that out. It's just a little nitpick. It wasn't a huge big deal for me personally. Just one thing that I didn't really like about it so much. And really, that's the only thing that I could think of that I didn't like. Final Girls by Riley Sager is a total 5 stars for me. I will be rereading this, and I will be forcing Shawnee to read it. I think both of these books are great reads, and I think that you should absolutely read them. But that is all that I can say for non-spoilers. So if you want to not be spoiled for these books, and I will be talking about the very ending and the final reveal and all of that in the spoiler section. So if you don't want that, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want spoilers, let's keep going. You have been officially warned. From this point on, we are heavy spoilers. I need you to go find something else to watch if you don't want spoilers. Okay, so there's some comparisons that I want to make that needed to be in the spoiler section. In Final Girl Support Group, there are a total of 6 girls, and they all meet in person. Let's see if I can remember their names. The main character's name is Lynette. There's Adrian, Danny, Marilyn, Heather, and Julia. Those are the 6 girls in the Final Girl Support Group. They meet in person once a month, and at the beginning of the book, their first meeting in the book, Adrian does not show up to the meeting, and later in the meeting, Marilyn gets a phone call, and it is revealed that Adrian has been murdered. In Final Girls, there are 3 total Final Girls. They all live in different areas, and they never really meet in person. They know of each other. They've talked to each other on the phone and emails and stuff like that. But the main character's name is Quincy, and then there's Samantha and Lisa. And towards the beginning of the book, so they're all famous. The nation knows their names, and they are known as Final Girls. And so towards the beginning of the book, there's breaking news, like on TV and online and whatever, newspapers, etc. There's news that Lisa, the original Final Girl, has committed suicide. And so then everything unfolds from there. And those are the opening plot comparison similarities. And then here's how they differ. So in Final Girl Support Group, in the book, throughout the book, the main character is just very paranoid and is experiencing like super hyper paranoia. And it's like she shows that she is following her incident that she survived. She is just, her head's on a swivel all the time, and she is suspicious of pretty much everyone. She doesn't really leave her apartment. She's got it like locked down, like she has like a one part of the apartment is like a metal cage that's like a doomsday room. Her computer is like super encrypted, and I don't know. So she's very precautious with a lot of things. And over time, she and the other final girls are like getting targeted, and like she suspects that the same person who killed Adrian is, or no, she suspects that each of their individual killers are going to come try to finish them off. But it turns out that the main bad guy is the son of the group's therapist, and he partnered with a girl who was recently made a final girl from, I believe, a school shooting, and her name is Stephanie. Maybe it wasn't a school shooting. I don't know. I forget Stephanie's incident, but she is a newly made final girl. She's like a college student or a high school student, and she has taken a liking to Sky, the son of the therapist, and they've taken upon themselves to show the world what they're made of, I guess. In various ways, they are able to get the girls' attackers like back in their lives, and their motive isn't really ever explicitly explained. I'm just thinking it's insanity, or like maybe just like wanting the attention, I guess. I don't know. And then in Final Girls, it's revealed at the end that instead of like being separate murderers for each respective final girl, the suicide that caused Samantha to come visit or to come find Quincy was actually a murder. Lisa was poisoned. She didn't commit suicide. And then it's revealed that Samantha is not really Samantha. Her real name is Tina, and she was a patient at the same mental institution as Joe, who was the alleged murderer in Quincy's incident at Pine Cottage. And Tina wanted to come get Quincy's help to clear Joe's name because they were friends in the institution, and she knows that Joe would never do that thing. She would never murder, or he would never murder all those kids. That's how Samantha / Tina fits into the story. And it turns out that the actual guy behind Lisa's murder and the incident of the incident that made Quincy a final girl was the cop who Quincy found after all of her friends were murdered. She's in the woods. She runs out. She sees the cop and like runs to him for help. But he's actually the one who killed everyone. And he also is the one who poisoned Lisa because it's shown that Lisa was like investigating and starting to get close to figuring out everything. And so he took care of her, and then he was going to take care of Quincy as well. And his motive was simply that he gets off on killing people. Like he does it for the rush, and there's no other reason. So there are some differences in the plot and the big reveal. But I want to talk about the ending and how they're so similar. Which, I mean, it's a good triumphant ending like you would expect from this type of story, like we've seen in slasher movies before. They're very similar. So in Final Girl Support Group, the girls meet Stephanie, the girl who partnered with Sky, the main bad guy, who is now in prison. They meet her at the prison that she is being held at, and they have a little discussion, and the final line of dialogue is, "Stephanie, welcome to the Final Girl Support Group." In Final Girls, Quincy is in some public setting where there's a TV, and on the news they're talking about a mass murder that happened in Modesto. And so, and there was one survivor, and her name is Haley. So Quincy books a flight, goes to the airport, and flies to Modesto, goes to the hospital that Haley is being held in, tells them that she's her cousin, and that's how she gets in. But that's not what's important. She says, when she finds Haley, they have a short little conversation, and the last, like the very last line of the book is, "I'm here to teach you how to be a final girl." So they both end in like a triumphant final girl standing together. We're better than our attackers and murderers, or not murderers. We're better than our attackers, and we can be strong together, which I love. I love that in these types of stories. I feel like those are pretty similar endings. I don't know how else you would end the book that would be like widely accepted. I guess if you ended it the opposite way, it probably wouldn't sell much. But anyways, so that's how the Final Girl Support Group and Final Girls compare to each other. And like in in summary, I had written off mysteries and thrillers for a long time. Like, I never thought that I was going to read another mystery thriller because of the one that I read a few years ago. And I'm really glad that I decided to check these books out because they've opened up my eyes, really. I thought that it was naive of me and kind of assumptive of me that I would think that all mysteries and thrillers are created equal and they all like are easy to guess and aren't worth reading, which is ludicrous. And honestly, if you're watching this and you're a fan of mystery and thrillers and you're appalled by that, I'm sorry. I apologize. It was very not, I guess, not considerate of me. It's just rude for me to think those things. But these books have opened my eyes that even with two very similar stories, that there can be two very different reading experiences and opinions on the way the story resolves. All that being said, because of this because of this comparison that I did, I will be reading more mysteries and thrillers, and I'm so glad that another door has been opened for me. And honestly, I can't wait to see what else is out there. So if you watched this entire video, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. And if you're not subscribed yet, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button and be sure to ring the bell so that you know and you get notified whenever we upload a video. If you liked this video, drop a like and let me know what you think in the comments. Is it odd to see two books that are so similar at the same time? Are there any other books that are similar like that I should check out? Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye!